Jessica Geran, Part 2. Jessica Geran has been listening to pitches from folks that want to get into the cannabis industry for years. Dutchess was one of the first groups which invested in the space, and you can hear more about that in episode 24 with Doug Layton and 41 with Jessica. Welcome to Cannabis Economy. I'm your host, Seth Adler. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and our new YouTube channel with the handle Can Economy. That's two N's and the word economy. We've got the new Cannabis Economy app in iTunes. You can get us through the iTunes podcast app and Google Play. A lot has changed since we last spoke to Jessica as, among other things, the investment opportunities being presented to her are night and day from less than a year ago. Please note the special appearance from Poseidon's Emily Paxi at the end of the episode. Here's Jessica Geran, Part 2. Okay, so here's Jessica Geran again. It's really, truly a pleasure to be speaking with you, Jessica.
Thank you.
You have really done an amazing job in the space with Dutchess. You guys have been in the space for a long while. And the last conversation that we had was around the investments that you did have and that you were looking at the time. And now we certainly want to hear what you're looking at now. But things have changed for you personally, haven't they?
Yes, they have. I am 7.5 months pregnant, which means I am super big right now.
Right. What is that like, being 7.5 months pregnant?
It's an incredibly unique, special, exhausting experience.
Okay. This is like nothing else that you've ever experienced in
Nothing.
your life before.
Not even close. It's like an alien has invaded my body and is moving around my belly constantly.
Well, I mean, in some respects, that's true.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to make an illegal alien joke, but I decided that this is not the forum for that.
No, we'd have to turn to politics, and that would just
Indeed.
get messy.
And let's turn to money instead.
Okay.
Let's do some capitalism. So, when we spoke last, you basically said that it was wonderful to see the passion in the cannabis space. The interview with Doug from Dutchess kind of outlined why you guys are in cannabis to begin with, or why you explored it to begin with. Just remind us, though, what even just a year ago, the types of opportunities that were being presented to you.
Sure. So I believe last I spoke, really the majority of the deals we were constantly seeing were from people who didn't have a business background, people who were unfamiliar with the process of putting a pitch together, speaking to potential investors, knowing exactly what needed to what they needed to reference, to research, to present in order to make a case for receiving investment dollars. So what that whole group of, if you want to put them all together, what that whole group did have, though, was just a love for the industry and passion behind it, and obviously experience with the plant and understanding that this could be the next big thing. We love cannabis, whether it was recreational, medical, whatever. So here we go. And, you can't necessarily, put any sort of numerical analysis on that passion and heart. But, it was just a little less sophisticated than some of the plans we are seeing now.
Right. And some of your issue is that you cannot put a numerical analysis on passion.
Correct.
Yeah, that's not empirical evidence. So that's where you were, and that's what you were doing. Somewhere along the way, things changed. Do you have an idea? Obviously it's progressed, and obviously it's been iterative. But was there a sea change? Was there a moment in time, or has it just been kind of evolving?
No, I think it's been evolving. There are certain, outlying cases that from day one, there were some really strong candidates in the space, understanding what the market was and how to put together, the appropriate proposal. But you can see the shift from the majority of, oh my gosh, this is so cool, let's get in to make money, to same sort of mentality of let's make money, but people from other industries with significant business experience all of a sudden realizing the true potential within the industry and shifting gears and jumping into the space.
Yeah. As far as the true potential in the industry, do you guys have a sense of what that is? Do you report on that, or is it just investment by investment? As far as Dutchess Capital and as far as the cannabis industry, do you have an outlook as far as, what it will look like by the end of 2016?
By the end of 2016, I think it's going to look quite similar to how it does today. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, politics are a huge factor in that.
Sure.
But, it's a slow-moving process. There are a couple key states that are making moves, Vermont, for example, making moves that are sort of unprecedented, going about legalizing in a different way than other states before, which, everything is, any progress is good progress at this point. But then, you see, it's as if we take 3 steps forward and then some news article comes out and it's 2 steps back. Or, a different political figure decides to switch his or her mind on potential outlook of the plant and what it does and legalities and everything. And so, the politics is just a mess around it.
What articles? I mean, what kind of news do you see that set it 2 steps back in your mind? What types of things that you see, kind of make you roll your eyes?
And it's still sort of that reefer madness mentality.
Yep. Well, it's been going strong for 80 years, Jessica.
It has. It's hard to shake. I understand.
It's a habit, They're addicted, actually, if you want to think about it.
Right.
Which is interesting because cannabis is not addictive, but that's a whole different podcast.
A whole different podcast. That in conjunction with, some of the major tech companies pulling, Facebook, for example, Instagram, a lot of these social media plays, turning down and deleting all different cannabis-related accounts, even if the accounts aren't, promoting the use of or sale of cannabis in any sort of way. Small things that actually can be broken down into almost every single little individual aspect of the industry.
Well, yeah, and so this is gives us an opportunity to talk about Massroots, which is one of your investments.
Yes.
At Dutchess, and that has happened just recently as far as Facebook and Instagram. Many accounts being pulled down for no apparent reason, and it seems to me that it's an interesting time to do that because cannabis is more legal now than it was 6 months ago or 12 months ago or 18 months ago. Do you have any sense, since you are playing in social networking with Massroots, why Facebook and Instagram have made those choices? Have you, do you guys have folks researching that type of thing, or not really?
We don't have anyone specifically researching it. It all comes back down to their policies and disclaimers that they continue to point to if and when they can be reached, and they being the main social media network or companies that we're discussing.
Right.
But people are at a loss. There are some really well-established brands that were suddenly pulled that had pages for 7 years. There were some brands that had pages for 6 months, and no one really knows exactly what the pattern is as to how they're finding them and why they're pulling them. Yeah,
and it's hundreds of thousands of users. I spoke to one of those very well-known CEO of one of those very well-known brands that had their page taken down on Facebook, and we got into a conversation of, it reminds me personally, Seth, of when the record companies started suing their customers who were downloading Napster.
Yep.
It seems so counterintuitive, and for a tech company to do that, it seems ludicrous.
Ludicrous, but that's what spurred the innovation of Massroots, and that's what is spurring a lot of new companies to find different solutions for normal problems that in other industries wouldn't exist.
And we spoke to Isaac a few months back. Have you seen, and this has happened subsequently, so have you seen spikes in users based on what we're talking about?
Well, at Massroots being a public company, ticker symbol MSRT, all of the user numbers and everything like that is as reported, in his filings. That's the information that I have.
Quarterly filings.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what I think the main influence that Massroots has is that people in the industry are understanding not only do they have such a huge hold on a strong user base, and remember, they are limited as to what states they can actually have followers in. Their followers have to be living in certain states in order to access the Massroots app per Apple geofencing and whatnot. But I think the companies within the space are realizing just how valuable it is to be able to have a platform that hits that specific target market.
Absolutely. There was that conversation was enlightening, and I've had many like them. But all right, so that's kind of the Massroots thing. That's what's happening in terms of social networking. Very well navigated, by the way, in terms of answering my question about the user base. So we'll wait for the next quarterly filing to see if there was, in fact, that spike. As far as recent investments that now are public, what can you share with us? What are the latest kind of companies that you guys are doing business with that you're excited about?
Sure. So as you mentioned, we got into this space. Our first investment was Massroots back in 2013, and within the first, call it 6 to 12 months, we made a handful of relatively small, but sort of middle of the road for the cannabis industry sized investments within a variety of different companies. So over the past, let's say 12 months or so, we've continued to, help those portfolio companies scale, grow, come in as fixers and make strategic introductions and try to work with everything that we've established so far as our investment portfolio. The new projects, or I should say the new deals we continue to see, we are working on a couple in-house internally, which have not been released yet, so that those are still quiet. And then still looking for that next big exciting project that we can focus our full attention to. I believe since the last we spoke, I'm not sure if we are the owners of a company called Rollable, which is an indestructible silicone, medical grade silicone fold up water pipe, or bong, if you will, that's meant for the adventure lifestyle or just the average klutz who can't have a glass piece sitting on his coffee table.
Got it.
And these small projects like that we never anticipated owning a bong company, but the deal sort of fell into our lap, and we've had a lot of fun working a great marketing campaign around it, and really helping to move as many as we can, and never in a million years did we think that would be one of our most immediately successful ventures, but it certainly has been.
Yeah, well, accessories obviously is a huge market, and obviously you've got a unique selling proposition with, with that product. And it does speak to the fact that in the industry, folks seem to know that there isn't just one type of cannabis user. We're seeing more and more about the proliferation of cannabis as a substance of choice, if you will, for any type of personality, any type of lifestyle. Can you speak more to that and how that affects what you do at Dutchess?
Sure. I mean, every opportunity, you have to take a good hard look at the market and who, what that opportunity is geared towards. And when, the 3 years ago, when people thought of cannabis, they thought of tie-dyes and, Birkenstocks and hippies and or just, super lazy, dumb stoners. Right. And as this becomes, as the sort of misconception of what cannabis does and who's actively involved in using the plant comes to light, you're finding out that there's everyone from mothers to adventurers to athletes to just the regular businessman who, instead of wanting to have a glass of whiskey after work, is going to have a joint instead. So it really spans the entire demographic of people, and just making sure that each individualized product, service, technology, what have you, is focused on who that right, that target market is really important in any sort of business plan.
Yeah, and that gets to, kind of the first thing that we were talking about was the different type of folks that you're seeing come into your office who want to, be active in the space. As far as a lack of understanding of cannabis from true business people, let's talk about that, because you at first were dealing with folks that had a lack of business understanding or acumen, but had a tremendous amount of passion and understanding of cannabis, the plant, and the community and the culture. Now you've got your business people who don't understand the culture as well. I'm not, I'm generalizing.
Sure.
But talk to that, because the cannabis culture is specific. While it is widespread, as we just discussed, it's also specific, and there are things in the cannabis industry that aren't in others. Talk through that. Talk about your thoughts to that end.
Sure. As with any industry, someone who wants to jump in should understand that they need to know as much as possible about that industry. Mm-hmm. And what we found is, over the past year or so, of suddenly receiving far more sophisticated, business plans and pitch decks, what a lot of teams are missing is someone who has what all of those other teams had before, and it's that passion or experience within the industry. It's the understanding of, who is actually out there and why people are using cannabis and what it does to you, and the different ways to use it, and what sort of gaps within the industry need to be filled, etc. So mm-hmm. you have some really, really incredibly smart, incredibly well-versed business people who are now jumping into the space, but they're actually lacking on that heart, if you will, because it just was never part of their life before, or never part of their outspoken life. And so, it's a very strange dynamic. And what we're finding is really the most coveted teams are those that have that incredible combination of both great business acumen and just a sense of the overall culture and the reasoning behind why this movement is so powerful and the opportunity there.
Mm-hmm. And so that gets to the team, and the team is what you invest in. Doug has said that, you have said that, others have said that. And if we've got passion on one side and business acumen on the other, and we find that perfect team, fantastic. And we do understand that you are investing in the team. However, my question is, beyond the team, let's say that the team is perfect. What do you think, and I'm not asking for intellectual property that you wouldn't provide, but what is missing? What is needed? What holes do you see in the space that are ripe for investment?
Oh, there are so many. But what's funny is so many are sort of dependent upon the future unknowns, and a lot of that has to do with laws, rules, regulations, and how things are going to shake out in that regard. Mm-hmm. So anything, having to do with actual supply or touching the plant, that sort of thing, for this conversation, I'm just going to wipe off the table, because there's too many unknowns as to how that process will eventually work. In regards to the ancillary companies, the tech companies, the product companies, as far as tech is concerned, there have been, a lot of struggles with seed to sale and business to business platforms. So we see a lot of companies working to try and plug those holes and fix those gaps. The thing
you're
is
talking about inventory tracking, analytics, all that.
Absolutely, and having to, it's a state by state system. So each state requires different styles of tracking and different data keeping and whatnot. So
sure,
it's a heavy, if you will. It's for a seed to sale or any sort of technology platform that's going to get into that space. There are a lot of things to think about. It's just not a plug in and done solution. A lot of customization, that sort of thing. So there is incredible opportunity to have one or two companies really come out on top in that space. What we're finding is that people very much have recognized that, and so there are probably I don't even know at this point, but handfuls of tech teams out there trying to be the first to really grab hold of a solution that works the best right now. So, who knows how that will play out, but there's certainly people heads down, writing code as fast as they can, trying to fix those problems.
So if I'm listening to this and I've got a couple of ideas and that's one of them, maybe avoid that one because that one's well covered.
It could be, but you never know, what's going to be missing with the next company to come around, if you will.
Sure. Right.
But
Fair
yes,
enough.
I mean, it is a competitive marketplace for that right now. Absolutely. And then, there's a lot of sort of Me Too companies. And by that I mean companies with going after the same market with the same idea in the media space, trying to pull together the best websites, best whether it's conferences, parties, this, that, and the other thing. There is definitely a market for that, and there will be winners in that. But again, it's a really crowded space right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we've done executive forums and explicitly know how crowded the space is. It's almost comical.
Yes. Yeah.
What else?
What else? I think whatever company can come out with any type of novel consumption device. So, the next best thing to a vaporizer. Everyone has the same sort of quick hit, easy style vaporizers right now. Those are just more so about branding.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Yeah, I'm sorry for interrupting. When you say everyone, you actually mean everyone. It's literally every single cannabis company that has a vape pen.
Yes.
But you say branding and pricing, that's where that market is right now. Go on.
Yeah, and so, what's next out there? What is going to be that next game changer that, takes potentially leaky vape pens off the market forever? Who is going to come up with something that makes sense for the young adults going to a concert, to the older gentleman with glaucoma?
Why don't you just say boomer? You say boomer and it sounds better.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah. Boomer with glaucoma. There you go. Yeah.
I like
it's
it.
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
So what is that next consumption device? And
Right.
and maybe it doesn't hit the whole spectrum of consumers, but certainly, there's got to be something coming up next that's just gonna, take frame and sort of shake the market.
Yeah, and you, speaking of the shape of the market, you said that as far as you're concerned, things are going to look similar by the end of this year. And I think what you're talking about is, yes, Vermont, and they're going about it one way, and there are ballot initiatives in many states, and obviously everyone's paying attention to California specifically, and Nevada a little bit less, and Arizona a little bit less, and Massachusetts a little bit less. But all of those are on the ballot, and I feel like that's what you're saying. We're waiting for that. What about, and thank you for acknowledging that. As far as in the meantime, though, if my product or my service or my proposal doesn't have to do necessarily with what happens with regulations, although every single one does and will. But if it has less to do with the regulatory framework and more to do with, what you're talking about, a vape pen. A vape pen's not going to really be affected by the vote, in Massachusetts. What are your thoughts on what can be done now to get ahead of the game and ahead of that vote in November?
I mean, it's innovation and first to market.
Mm-hmm. That was too specific answer. Do you want to give us a level deeper than that? Or I understand first to market; it's right there in the title. In terms of innovation, though, give us more there.
I mean, just as I had said, no one. You're not. Yes, you may have a very successful or moderately successful company if you come out with something that's already out on the market and you just pitch it a tiny different way. But I mean, the next biggest best thing is it's going to be something that we haven't seen yet. Maybe it's a play on something that's out there now that just takes it 3 levels above and beyond what it is. But that's what we're looking for. We haven't found it yet. So when we find it, I'd be happy to talk more about it.
And that speaks to your point about the Me Too companies. Yes, companies like that can make money and are innovating iteratively, but that's not going to be that big win that you're looking for. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, so then do you see 2017 then as a year of massive change, assuming that most of the legalization measures that are on ballots do go through? Is that where you see kind of a sea change?
I hope so.
Right.
It's
who knows?
The processes and the politics take so long for some states that there's really no set timeline you can base anything on in this industry. Yeah.
And so while it moves unbelievably quick, and we talk about cannabis years as dog years, there still is somewhat of a slow pace in terms of it becoming that next complete great American industry.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's talk about you becoming complete, because you have you're 7.5 months pregnant, Jessica, and we don't know if it's a boy or a girl. That's on purpose.
Correct.
And I talked to you about my sister, who has been pregnant twice. She has 2 beautiful, lovely children. But what she found amazing was that during her pregnancies, number one, strangers are allowed to talk to you about anything, about your body. And number 2, strangers are allowed to touch you.
Yeah, the touching, while I was warned about it, it still threw me off the first time it happened. It was very uncomfortable.
It's so strange. I mean, I know I have that pull. Like when I see, my sister, when I saw my sister's pregnant belly, the pull is to touch the belly. Do you have any thoughts on, the makeup of someone's mind that does that, and
my first extremely uncomfortable touching or being touched experience. This sounds so creepy. What a creepy conversation.
Well, let's just keep it to the belly. Let's talk about it. Yeah, exactly. My pregnant belly. Yeah,
I
exactly.
was at a concert, a small show in Boston.
Okay. Was it the Mighty Mighty Bosstones?
It was not. It was it was actually a Hall & Oates cover band.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the name of the Hall & Oates cover band?
HMFO.
I mean, I get it, but no, come on, we can do better than that.
It's not. I didn't name the band.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And they were very entertaining. It was a very fun night. But I was there with I believe there were 5 or 6 of us in our group, and this guy comes dancing over, and out of nowhere, I have no idea who this man is. It's relatively dark. I wasn't even that far along in I definitely had a baby bump, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, like pregnant woman at the concert. And he just comes right up to me with both hands, just like a basketball, right on my belly, congratulating me. And
congratulations.
My jaw just hit the ground. Who are you? Why are you touching me? Please get away. And he danced off. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what makes it so much of a strange thing, is because this belly touching, this is so 100% positive. It's always from such a wonderful place, but again, you're being touched by strangers.
Total strangers.
Yeah. What about the conversations that you have? I would imagine mostly with women. If men and women alike feel comfortable in touching you, I would imagine most of the conversations about your pregnancy are with women. Is that fair?
That's correct. Yeah. That's definitely an accurate assumption there. And it's conversations topics that never in a million years would I have with just general acquaintances, or not even so. Maybe it's the first like phone call that I will have actually with someone who has sent over an investment proposal or pitch deck, and suddenly being pregnant comes up in it. I now know everything about her labor, her recovery, her it's unbelievable.
And I feel like that must be coming from a place of empathy, right? Or
absolutely.
Okay.
Empathy, and everyone likes to talk about their own experience, right?
Sure. Oh yeah, everybody likes to talk about themselves. That's why we have the Cannabis Economy podcast, Jessica.
Right.
So okay, so I mean, you've got just a little bit left. What's the due date?
May 7th.
Okay. Well, I mean, best of luck to you, and best wishes, and positive feelings and things, and all that. How are the potential grandparents? How are they reacting to this whole thing?
Absolutely ecstatic. So excited. They live far enough away that they can't just pop in, and close enough that they can be there if we need them. So it's a good scenario.
And do you have a specific quote from your mother that we would like to share here, or you can take a pass, of course?
Oh, I have to take a pass because number one, I have pregnancy brain, so it's hard for me to recall anything at this point.
Right, or who knows what you would say even.
Oh. Passing.
Yeah, total pass. All right, so you did mention Hall & Oates. I'm sure that we did the what has most surprised you in cannabis, what has most surprised you in life questions. And I will ask you again, after you're done with this whole pregnancy thing, about what has most surprised you in life, because I sense that the answer is going to be different. But I don't think that we had the opportunity to ask you on the soundtrack of Jessica Geran's life, what track would be on that soundtrack? God. Yeah. So you mentioned Hall & Oates, right?
Yeah.
So I would imagine you as a Gen Xer, you're right on the cusp. We also talked about, you're younger than you would than most people would assume, I think.
I hope that's not based on photos, but thank you.
No, my goodness, you're right. And as I said it, I heard myself. What I mean is, you have a very big job, and you do very important things all day long. So for you to be on the cusp of being potentially a millennial would be
what's
surprising.
What's crazy is that the millennials just continue to keep getting older and older.
Right.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's
It
what
just keeps
happened. I
happening.
mean, this is a really deep conversation. This is, I mean, what you're talking about is the concept of time.
Time.
Yeah, and I feel like we could go ahead and kind of, unpack that, or just go straight to your song.
I'm going to ask for another pass on the song, but I'm not going to pass forever.
You can't do that.
You can't do that. I
that.
just need to think about it a little more.
That's fine. So here's what just happened. So Steve Fox, yes, that's Steve Fox, did take a pass on the song, but what he did was he paid it forward to Jamie Lewis of Mountain Medicine in Colorado.
Oh,
so in other words, the next time I talk to her, she gets to pick his song, which we will certainly do. So you can take a pass because of pregnancy brain. We will allow it. But you do need to name someone within the industry who you will pay it forward to. I'll speak to that person and then get the song from them.
Okay. I'm thinking.
Yeah, you got to think of who it might be.
Right.
Could be anyone.
It could be. I am going to actually choose Emily Paxia.
Oh, okay, good. Fair enough.
Yeah. She and I, obviously somewhat similar roles. And very friendly.
Indeed.
And I feel like she will have a very creative answer.
That's fantastic. I'm actually going to San Francisco for a number of reasons. I should say the Bay Area, which is more true, for a number of reasons very soon. So I will, if we don't do a whole interview with Emily again, and she and, I had the opportunity to interview both she and Morgan. It was a very personal interview, and I very much appreciated the conversation. If I don't do a full interview with her, what we'll do is we'll just get her on a mic sharing a song and then maybe couple it to this episode. What do you think of that?
I think it's a great idea.
Jessica Geran, best of luck with your pregnancy. Of course, I'll be watching my text machine for the moment on or around May 7th. In all seriousness and sincerity, the best to you and your family and everything. I can't wait.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, Seth.
You got it.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, so as we just heard, Jessica Geran paid her song forward based on pregnancy to Emily Paxia. And Emily, thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
This is an important thing for Jessica, for the Cannabis Economy podcast, and quite frankly for you. So what's the latest? I mean, we haven't spoken since we had our great conversation with Morgan. What's the latest in your world?
Recently we've really been focused on the California Adult Use Initiative that's hopefully going to be going on the ballot for the fall. And it's really important because while it's not perfect, really no piece of legislation ever is, it's the closest thing we've come to something that's really good, and we think it's going to move the industry forward. So.
Excellent. Wonderful. So all eyes are kind of focused on you guys in California. So yeah, please do what you can and tell us what we can do to help to make sure that goes nice and easy, right?
That's an excellent question. Unfortunately, due to the way the system works, elections are expensive, and getting something passed like this costs money. Donating to the Marijuana Policy Project or the DPA, the Drug Policy Alliance, are definitely the best ways to do it. They both have California-specific donation links on their sites, so you can find those there. And I think that those guys are going to be working right alongside the people who will get this done. So.
Exactly. And those two organizations, you can't go wrong with either one of them, and that's based on track record alone. How about that?
I think so. I mean, there are excellent organizations like the NCIA, CCIA. Everybody's doing a great job. I just think those guys right now are pretty tapped in on it, so that's
Indeed.
a great place to start. Yep.
All right, so then that is where we started this conversation. That's fantastic. And I'm sure we'll talk to you and Morgan at greater length soon. But let's get to the business at hand here. Have you considered what song you would put on Jessica Geran's soundtrack of her life?
Well, I want to say this is the best thing I've had to do all week so far, and it's Tuesday. So this is really quite a gift. Jessica, I just want to say, is one of those women in the industry that I just really admire, and I consider her a true colleague and somebody who's helping us to move everything forward. So the first song, I picked two songs. I know I was supposed to pick one, but I had to pick two.
Oh, that's fine.
The first song is Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Starship.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So that's Jefferson Airplane turned into Jefferson Starship, which turned into Starship, and so that's the 80s version of that band. Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, and that's a pretty 80s song, I will say that.
It's a very 80s song, and I feel amazed that you know the history of Starship. But also that I think it's a love song, but I just feel like I'm picturing like all the people in the industry just, nothing's going to stop us now. And I picture Jessica as a part of that.
Absolutely. If maybe she's singing karaoke and the rest of the industry is in the audience cheering her on.
That would happen, yes.
Indeed.
And it will.
Okay. So that's song number one.
Yes. And then the next song, I just think every girl needs a good song to just kind of listen to. And it was Sweet Jane by the Velvet Underground.
Oh, see, now I feel like you just delivered. Sweet, sweet Jane. Right? Oh, that's fantastic. What should happen is you and I should stop talking so that anybody listening can stop listening and then go put that song on, because that's one of the greatest songs ever. Let's be honest.
I mean, I agree.
Emily Paxia, thank you for coming through on this unique request. You've done a fabulous job.
Thank you to you and to Jessica for doing me the honor of letting me pick these songs.
Of course, Emily Paxia, best of luck to you and California. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
And there you have Jessica Geran. And of course, Emily Paxia. Thank you so much to Emily for jumping in there. Very much appreciated talking to Jessica, and wish her all the best. Very exciting times. Very much appreciate Emily's time, and I very much appreciate your time. Thank you so much for listening. Very much appreciate it.